The newly elected Sri Lankan president is in India on a three-day state visit. The Gotabaya Rajapaksa is stressing the need for the two countries to collaborate on security and economic development.
Now, India calls the visit a fresh start. Relations between the two countries have been strained because the previous Sri Lankan leader was perceived as being pro-China. Our correspondent Neha Punia is in New Delhi covering the visit. Neha, what are the Indian leaders saying at this visit? What are the messages and tone? We heard earlier, or we said earlier, that there was a $400 million loan waiting for Sri Lanka.
Most bilateral engagements are usually very high on optics, but in this case, media as well as analysts were watching what the equation between the two leaders was going to be, and they weren't disappointed. Even before the bilateral engagement and soon after, when the press statements were made, the leaders were very warm towards each other. There were a lot of smiles, the bonhomie quite apparently visible, and that's the message the leaders are giving out to the region as well, that they're invested in ensuring that this is a forward-looking, positive engagement between the two neighbors. Mr. Modi said that the engagement with Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was a fruitful one, and that they've identified various areas of cooperation. Like you said, a $400 million line of credit has been announced. India clearly doing its homework, identifying areas that Sri Lanka is looking in help for. Also importantly, India is committing $50 million to help Sri Lanka on national security issues. Now, this is important because Mr. Gotabaya won that election with a massive landslide on the plank of ensuring national security.
Neha, does India expect any change perhaps in Sri Lanka's policy, particularly those issues that seem that India is perhaps not too keen on?
One of the most important takeaways from this visit has been that this is Mr. Gotabaya's first overseas visit, and it's something Mr. Modi referred to himself, saying that it's an honor that the Sri Lankan president picked New Delhi for his first bilateral engagement. Many experts have said that he could have very well gone to Beijing, which would have been a very different kind of signaling from the Sri Lankan president to the region. And the fact that that's not happened is something that India is taking heart in. Also, the fact that Mr. Gotabaya himself has said that Sri Lanka is not going to do anything that is against the interests of New Delhi as far as its own diplomatic engagement is concerned. So the signaling from Colombo also seems to be that this time around things will slightly be different. The fact that India is also committing financial aid and money to help Sri Lanka meet its development goals also goes perhaps a long way. Delhi's concern has always been that it doesn't want China in its own backyard. It doesn't want China to accomplish that string of pearls theory where Delhi feels it's being encircled by Beijing. The fact that Mr. Gotabaya has also expressed regret for that Hambantota 99-year lease deal also is something that India is going to look at very, very positively. So far, all things seem to be on deck, but of course, we'll only know as this engagement progresses whether or not the leaders are actually walking the talk.
All right. Many thanks for that. Neha Punia speaking to us from New Delhi.